Creative Mornings is a global project, and so we do hope that while you're coming here in Virginia Beach, and we can welcome you here every month, tap into those online resources. You can actually see speakers from all around the globe. And Creative Mornings is globally funded by Adobe, which, as you know, is a very important creative resource for all of us, so we're appreciative of their support. And then here locally, we are very much supported by the City of Virginia Beach and the Virginia Beach Arts and Humanities Commission. And so I'm going to welcome up one of our commissioners, Sunny Peoples, part of our Creative Morning team, to read the theme.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, Creative Mornings, Virginia Beach. Our global theme for September is Blossom. It was chosen by our Pereira chapter in Colombia, illustrated by Edwin Morales, and is presented by Adobe. Every blossom is an act of becoming. The quiet force of roots, pushing through the dark, the slow unfurling of a bud, a sudden burst of color. But plants don't blossom on command. Each flower requires the right amount of sunlight, water, and nourishment across the cycle of seasons. It's the same for creativity. Our ideas lie dormant while we fertilize our mind. With attention, protection, and space to play, our work becomes what it's meant to be. Petal by petal, the passion inside of us bursts into a gorgeous, glorious bouquet. But remember that flowers don't bloom purely for their own sake. They share their fragrance, attract pollinators, and serve the larger ecosystem. Your creativity needs to pollinate as well. So share your gift. Spread more ideas, more beauty, and more courage. To truly blossom, you must take the risk of opening up. This is your season. You deserve to be seen. Offer your abundance of color to the world. Ask yourself, what within me is ready to blossom? What can I nurture to help others do the same? And now for our manifesto.
All right, does everyone have one of these? Cool, we're gonna read it together. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to mention, Rachel has a studio around here, so please come in and see her pottery when you're done, okay? And there's an artist panel tonight that Rachel is on tonight at 6:30 here in the Creative Well. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, Val, we're going to have you introduce our wonderful speaker.
Good morning, everyone. American Songwriter magazine describes Roberta Lea as a compelling artist, while the Nashville scene praises her ability to score hits with her catchy, textured, and beautifully sung originals. The award-winning singer-songwriter released her debut album, Too Much of a Woman, to critical acclaim and punctuated her presence in the industry with a coast-to-coast tour. Described as country neopop with a delicious folkly flair, the Virginia native is known as a powerful songwriter and engaging storyteller. As a touring member of the Black Opry, one of CMT's Next Women of Country class of 2023, and a voting member of the Recording Academy, Lea is steadily building a successful, sustainable artist career that will be etched in Virginia's history and beyond. Help me welcome Roberta.
Good morning. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alicia, and everyone for being here and inviting me, especially at such a short notice. And so with that being said, I do have to admit that I am nervous, which is very rare. I was speaking with Mark earlier. I'm a former educator, used to teach at Lake Taylor and Booker T. Washington High School. And there is no tougher of an audience than high schoolers, teenagers on the first day of school. They do not want to be there. They already hate you. And over the years, I have learned that if you can crack that nut, they are very tough nuts to crack. As soon as you crack them open on the first day of school, you can roll with it. And that has been very helpful for me as an artist and performer. But considering all things, I did my best to prepare for today. And I'm grateful to be able to share with you all my story. So today's theme is Blossom. And I want to speak to you all about the fact that creatives need to benefit and get support from their community so that they in turn can benefit and support their community and continue that cycle of supporting and encouraging one another. So let's start with the soil. We have our growth components. I forgot I made a PowerPoint. I did that last night. Shout out to Canva, okay? Whew. Help a sister out. So as Alicia mentioned earlier when talking about this particular theme, you have your components of growth, right? A seed in and of itself cannot grow. We have, you don't have to be an expert gardener to understand in order to cultivate your idea, you need your soil, you need your water, you need your sunlight in order to blossom. And that is our theme. Blossom. Okay, I'm good. All right, so let's talk about the soil, the dark, the unknown, the uncertain. 2017, I was dragged for my dreams. Anyone know what I mean by getting dragged? Poked fun of, right? It was a New Year's Eve celebration, talent show sort of thing, at a church that I was attending at a time. And they had a bit of a tradition in which they would rag on people in the church for whatever particular reasons, right? They poke fun of someone in their cooking or poke fun of someone. And so I was one of the subjects of their of their comedy that evening. And I remember at some point someone saying, oh, Roberta, what does she think she's going to do with her music? She thinks she's Adele. She thinks she's this. She thinks she's that. And so I took it in good faith because that was kind of our culture at the time, was ragging one another. It was very familiar. It was very brother and sisterly like. And, you know, you're always knocking jokes. But one thing that I did know was that when it came to jokes, there is always an element of truth that is lying underneath the surface. And so, in retrospect, I'm like, tell me how you really feel about me. And those little things, those little comments, those little times when people were annoyed that I was learning guitar, those times when I was not chosen to be the lead singer or help lead in worship service, all of those things start to add up. And they start to play in your mind because you hold this dream in the darkness. Nobody else sees it yet. But you know its potential. And you're trying to convince the world of that potential, but they just don't get it. And so that starts to take a little bit of a toll on you mentally. And so when we talk about the work that you have to do, it is your responsibility as a creative to put in the time, the money, and the energy before anybody else does. 2018, I lost a talent show. There was a talent show going on at Norfolk State University. I am an artist. I'm going to open mics. I'm trying to figure this out, right? I'm just trying to find an opportunity to showcase. And so therefore I signed up for the talent show. Oldest person in the room. Not a great feeling, right? Among college students. I'm a mom with kids, right? And here I come trying out for this talent show. Well, I make it past the auditions. And there's supposed to be 3 rounds when the night comes. The first round, you do your song, and the judges vote as to who moves on. And I got cut the first round. I go sit down next to my husband in the audience, and I cry, right? Because again, you see it, but they don't see it. You're in the dirt, you're in the dark. 2019, I have a panic attack. I am teaching at Booker T. Washington High School, go Bookers, in Norfolk. And I'm still doing the work. I'm still putting in the energy. I'm still going to open mics. I'm still writing on my own. I'm still trying. But that effort is limited by the 8 hours that I have to put in to go to work and pay those bills, right? It is limited by tending to my children, tending to my family. And I only have so many hours that I can squeeze in to pour into this little seed of mine. And one day, if you are an educator, you know you have to stand outside of your door while the kids are coming in, right? And so my students are walking by. And I remember one of them looking at me. He says, "Miss Walters, are you okay?" And the breathing just gets heavier. Mr. Baylor, he had his office right across the hall. And radio. Next thing you know, I'm in a wheelchair. And I was not planning on that. And the significance of that moment was the fact that my spirit was having a temper tantrum. I really do believe we all have that inner child. And my inner child was having a temper tantrum. She wanted what she wanted one way or another. And I really do believe that our bodies will physically respond to the spiritual and emotional neglect of those dreams and those seeds. And that was that moment. No signal. Okay. It's like you're talking too long. Switch to the next slide or I'm going to cut off. It's okay. That's fine. This is perfect. And so these pictures are of the work, the will, the wonder, right? All of the energy that I was pouring into myself when nobody was seeing what I was seeing. This is actually at Virginia Wesleyan College at the time. Now Virginia Wesleyan University, soon to be Baton University. I have no opinions whatsoever on that. And this was at the chapel. There's a little chapel in the university, and I would go there by myself all the time in the mornings, and I would play that piano, and I would play my guitar, and I would sing to an audience of one. And that is where that little seedling was growing. This is my studio room, my piano. My husband bought that for me as a wedding gift. I have it engraved. And these are all just 3 of the gazillion notebooks that I have. And this was at the library, Silver Library, when they had the studio. And I asked a friend if he would interview me. I didn't have people calling and emailing or anything. And so I had to fake it till I made it. So I asked a friend, I said, "Can you interview me for this song that's coming out?" And so that's just an example of the work, the will, the wonder in the dirt, right? Pouring into yourself, getting creative. Lord knows how many selfies that I took that made it onto poster boards, and right? Selfies, DIY music videos, just kind of figuring things out as I go along. And that is a part of being in the dark and being in the soul. You're not too sure, and that's okay, but you do it anyway. Wade in the water. I don't know why I said that, but I felt like the alliterations worked, so I did it anyway. Now I want to talk to you about that community, which is why we're here, and how community changed the trajectory of my career. Again, I'm nervous. Let's see, 2021 is when I officially resigned from teaching. And I shared on social media. I said, I just put in my resignation letter. I'm going to be doing music full time. And within 5 minutes, I get a notification from a woman named Reese Palmer, who is the founder of Color Me Country Radio, Apple Music. And she says, "Hey, I saw your tweet, and we have a grant, so we're going to send you some money." And so I took that money, it was $1,000, and I recorded my first project. Did mostly in my little home studio, took it to a main studio for mixing and mastering, but I did my best. And I said, I'm going to do something with this. And I put out my record. So that was 2021, Just a Taste. Simple little 6 songs, and had something to present to the world. So that was someone pouring into me, right? So I poured into myself, right? The time, money, and energy when nobody else knew, when no one else believed. And eventually, as people began to catch on, I started to receive. the water, right? The rain. In 2022, I started to do my first tour with the Black Opry, which is a collective of Black artists that do country, folk, Americana music. And that was the very first time I ever did tour. Every first time I learned about in advance and how to book and how to, what time you show up and load in, right? And so this collaboration started to, the collaboration with the Black Opry contributed to my growth as an artist because I had opportunities that I didn't have before, right? 2023, I released my Kickstarter. Our goal was $18,000 to make my debut album, Too Much of a Woman, and we raised $22,000 with the help of Brandi Carlile and Allison Russell. And so, in the next slide, I have a couple of, so this was the Black Opry. This was our very first show in New York at the Rockwood Music Hall. And it was just like, hey, we're going to do this one little thing randomly. And next thing you know, it was a 2 to 3 year ordeal of traveling coast to coast. This is myself and Brandi Carlile, the Americana Fest. And local collaboration, this is the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, their quartet, who came to record Remarkable Lady with me when I was preparing it for its first film. And so when we talk about that support, we're talking about community collaboration, but also, and most importantly, is critique, which I think as artists is very difficult for us to receive, right? Of course, we love the pouring out, we love the water, we love the money. We love it when you show up to our shows or to our events, all right? We love it when you tell people about our work. It is very difficult to receive critique, but it is absolutely important and absolutely crucial because without that feedback, we have no clue whether or not we're even on the right track. And so you spend all this time pouring your time, money, and energy into your craft, and you have no clue whether or not it's reaching and making the impact that you desire it for it, right? And so community collaboration, critique contributes to that growth. You can tell I'm a songwriter with the alliterations there. That and teaching and my husband being a preacher is just meant to be. After we pour into ourselves, others begin to pour into us. We finally start to get to a point where we're in the sunlight. We get that reward, we get that recognition, we start to get that reach, which is what our hearts truly desire. Our hearts really do desire, but that's not exactly the final purpose. It's not the final stop, right? But let's see. In 2023, I was named one of CMT's Next Women of Country. So that was pretty cool. And my music videos ended up Billboard, Times Square, right? So we drive up to New York and see your face on those big old jumbo screens, and you're an independent artist, and you don't have a big team. But I had the time, the money, and the energy during the soil process poured into myself, time, money, and energy during the watering process that I got from my community. And now that is starting to take form, right? That's starting to come into the light. And so that was 2023. 2024, I had my highest grossing income from touring, which surpassed what I was making in the professional world, working 9 to 5 days a week, which is something that you always wonder as a creative. You're like, can I really do that? Can I really pull in? There's that safety net of benefits, right? That paycheck that comes every 2 weeks, right? That's always the fight. That is always the struggle. But that is why when we're in the dirt, we're slugging it out, doing that 9 to 5 while taking the time that we do have to pour into our creative space. That is why that's important, right? Because I feel like there's something when you communicate to the universe, like it's that important to me that I'm willing to take up the little bit of time that I do finally have, and I will pour it into this, and I'm hoping that you meet me halfway. And so 2025, I would have to say that the biggest recognition and highlight this year was a documentary that my story was a part of won an Emmy. And I don't think I saw it, but I didn't see it. Am I good on time? We're good? Okay, because this is a pretty wild story. I have to tell you this. I turned 35 4 years ago, 2021, and I'm pretty sure it was the night of my birthday, at least that week. I have a dream. I am a dreamer, meaning I should probably get a bag of popcorn when I go to bed because a movie is going to unfold in my mind. I had a dream, and in that dream, I saw an Emmy. I won an Emmy. I don't know. I just saw the Emmy in my dream. The next day, we have a plan to do some pictures. It's the chapter 35, so we're going to go get dressed up, take some cute pictures. Pembroke Mall, Capone Studios. You guys know Michael Capone. He had his Capone Studios in Pembroke Mall, and I remember we walked past it as a selfie studio, but it just said Capone Studios, so nothing really clicked to me until we walked in and we saw the red Power Ranger. Michael Capone. And so there he is, just at the front. He's like, hey guys. And I'm like, I know you. What are you doing here? He's like, this is Virginia Beach's home. I started a business. And so we're just talking away. And we tell him, yeah, we're here for some birthday pictures, etc. And we look behind him, and lo and behold, there is an Emmy sitting on the counter. And so I said, that's what my dream was about. At least that's what I thought. And so I told him, I said, I had a dream last night that I had won an Emmy. That's really cool. This is what my dream was telling me. Took pictures, they were cute, sounds great. Little did I know, in the dark, in the dirt, in the soil, 4 years ago, that premonition really would come to fruition, that it was beyond just so happening to see someone's statue in his business, but that the collaboration and the partnership with Kendra Hawkins, who is producer over at WHRO, and a friend, becoming a friend and say, I believe in your story and I want to record your story. And we team up, and I get this camera crew following me everywhere, which was awkward. And they convinced me to put on waders and walk into Chesapeake Bay with a guitar. It was a prop guitar to take pictures and video and all of these different things. And all of these ideas coming about, I just had no clue that moment was on the rise. And so all that told me was I just had to enjoy being in the moment. I just had to enjoy making a friend. I just had to trust in my community. And the things that followed were beyond my control, but were those rewards. Veer magazine, I'm sure you all are familiar with. Front cover, this is 2. We're now with 3 awards now with Veer magazine. My second red carpet, I had a picture of my first, but I was running out of time trying to scroll through all my, I couldn't find anything fast enough. Red carpet at CMT, and I think this was the first time I think someone did like a review video of folks who, like what people wore, and it was very quick. Like he would just roll through pictures and say, "Oh gosh, that's terrible. What is she wearing? Oh no. Okay, that's okay. That's good." And he got to me. He was like, "This is good." And then I said, "Whew, passed my first test with the red carpet outfit." Okay. Indeed. Lastly, talking about the blossom, the sunlight is something that we long for. The sunlight is something that we hope for, the recognition, the rewards. But that is not the purpose of what we do. The purpose of what we do, as Alicia so said eloquently earlier, is that blossom, the fruit, the fragrance, and the fall. The fruit of your labor. The purpose of all of your work, of the dirt, of the water, pouring that time, money, and energy, is to bear fruit in some capacity, one way or another, right? As a songwriter, as a person who works in music, it is to encourage the listener. Storytelling and oral communication is one of the oldest forms of education, right? And entertainment in human history. And so just very often we kind of take music and the art of that for granted, but it is extremely powerful. And I have to remind myself of that it's beyond just being a songwriter and check out my mixtape and it's on Spotify now. It's beyond that. There is truth in the words that we express. And when they begin to reach people, it can truly be beyond your own expectations as far as how life-changing it is. If we go to the next slide, just this week, yes, I was at Dollywood. I go there just about every year. I think that was probably my 5th or 6th time. And this young lady here, her name was Elise. She comes up to me after the set and she is in tears. She's crying. And so my first assumption was that there was a song that really moved her, as usually is the case. To my surprise, she said, I didn't know you were going to be here. I have been a huge fan of yours for X amount of time. She's like, I've been listening to your album for months. And my mom, we all just decided, oh, let's go to Dollywood. And so we're walking around. She's like, I see your picture. I'm floored. I didn't know you were going to be here. Her cousin was hospitalized. And as he was passing away, their favorite pastime was listening to Too Much of a Woman, my album. And I don't think I could have seen that in my panic attack. I couldn't have seen it when they were ragging on me in New Year's. I don't think I could have mustered that vision. This was one of my first speaking engagements, and this was Girl Trip last night out here in Virginia Beach that I get to do with BJ Griffin. Shout out to BJ. Shout out to that. Shout out to the Norva, where we're going to be tonight. So when you're done at the other creative event, come over to Norfolk and hang out with us at the Norva. We have a show tonight we're very excited for. But Big Juicy Entertainment, we did Girl Trip last night out, and now I didn't perform, I just hosted, and I got to platform these incredible artists that are doing great things in the area. And just look at these sweet babies. Need I say less? Right? I think they just finished their performance they did like Seussical, and they had just finished a performance and came through. It rained, that show got rained out over in Cape Charles. And so I probably played for a good 30, 45 minutes. It rained out. As everyone scattered, I invited people to meet me underneath the pagoda, and I just did an acoustic set. And those babies came and they hung out. The families came and stuck around. But the fruit, the fragrance in the fall, you're leaving. As far as the fruit, of course, we know we create so people can consume, right? We create our pottery so people can purchase it, they can consume it. We make our art, our photography, our paintings, our music. All of that is for others to consume, and that cycle kind of continues. When it comes to fragrance, I truly believe that would point to integrity in your work. Because there is nothing like distrust and deceit. There's nothing like that leaves a bad odor, right? Bad smells are there to warn us. And when you have when you're working on your creative venture and you leave behind lack of integrity, the community starts to get a whiff, right? And so fragrance to me is leaving behind integrity in your work, honesty. Lastly, and I firmly believe that this is the season that I'm in personally, is the fall. And we know what happens in the fall. The colors, the leaves change. The foliage begins to wither and fall to the ground. And the trees and the flowers and the plants that we see that are oh so green and oh so beautiful in the spring and summer no longer have that presentation. However, those leaves that fall to the ground serve as fertilizer. I learned this. I remember someone saying, and I could be wrong, you have to do your research, like again, I'm not a pro. But someone was saying, hey, usually when the fall comes, the leaves are covering our yards. They say, don't do that. Don't rake up your leaves and put them in trash bags. The leaves are there as the last second nourishment that the tree will absorb before the winter comes. And so you leave it on the ground. It's almost kind of like mulch, like it naturally mulches itself, keeps its roots warm, and then it starts to, the bugs, of course, I learned that centipedes are like the garbage men of the forest. They just go through and just munch, right? And they break it all down, right? And it goes into the soil and it provides nutrients that's going to last the tree through the winter. And so it's not garbage, right? It's not just some inconvenience that you have to sweep up and move away. And so there are lots of times in our creative journeys when things start to take a pause, and it is nerve-wracking. The pause that I had this year was moving away from my booking agent. They were moving in a different direction. I wasn't too happy with some things, and we mutually agreed, okay, it seems like things are changing, so I think it's time to put a pause on that. And even though that was my heart's desire, it's still a little bit panicky because I'm like, well, now I'm really free. Now I'm really an independent artist. I have no team whatsoever. My husband is my biggest champion, my biggest support. But other than that, he's going to school right now full time for mental health. This is it. And so all of these things started to line up. And I'm like, no, this is the time to pause. It's been 4 or 5 years of really putting the work in. Being filled with wonder, the will, really giving of myself. And I'm like, there is a time in which we need to rejuvenate. And that can scare us as creatives because our minds are always going. We always want the something new. We always want, right? And that's kind of what the world demands of us as well, especially in social media, constantly post, right? I feel like I've been bullied lately by TikTok because every other video pops up and they're like, this is what you do to get more followers. This is what you do to get more views. And I'm like, stop it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that. And so there's a constant, the wheel needs to keep turning because that wheel is what makes money. It makes the world go round. But there is wisdom as a creative when you know it's time to take a break. We know it's time to put a pause. That is my beef with capitalism, is that we don't get a break in the winter. I'm like, every other species gets a break, okay? The bears go on hibernate, the leaves are we need a break, And that it is okay to shed, to reevaluate, and to prepare oneself for the next season, because stepping into a season of rest to rejuvenate, renew, refresh, and prepare for the next season of becoming. That's it.
Did anyone else get chills, right, with the dream about the Emmy? Oh my gosh. You really touched me when you shared about your panic attack. How did you, as a creative and a mom and a busy teacher, how did you restore yourself after that moment?
I decided I was going to quit. That was 2019. So more practically, I remember my husband came and picked me up. He had to come get me from the school. I had to call in a substitute. And all the conversations that my husband and I have, I'm like, I really can't let this go. This is like an itch that I need to scratch. And I'm like, if I don't try, I'm going to be very upset with myself. And so we made a plan. We said, okay, we are going to do this. This is what we need to do. This is our debt. This is this is how much I'm making. This is what you're making, et cetera. This is what we'll need to do in order for you to step away from your job, your full-time job, and pursue your music comfortably without any particular strain. So it was really putting together a plan of action that gave my mind ease and giving it a timeline, because of the panic attack is scary in that moment, but obviously I can't just pull the plug like right now, right? But creating a plan that said, okay, it's 2019, we're gonna get out of debt by next year. And 2020 came around. There was a good long while in which we were not teaching full time, but we were still getting paid because that's the contract. And my husband's in real estate, and at the time, most realtors and most folks just kind of backed off the market, and he put himself out even further, and we got out of debt in 1 month. 2020 was the year that we just really put our foot to the pedal and really drove it home to do something like getting out of debt. That was part of our plan. So really just giving a timeline, and that gave my mind and my spirit just a level of ease that's like, okay, it's coming. Not necessarily having to wonder, like, is it gonna happen? It's like, okay, it's happening, if that makes sense.
Beautiful. We'll take a couple questions. Anyone? Yes, Robert.
Thank you so much. You talked about integrity in your art. What are the things that occur that have an artist, and I'm not one, so I don't quite have the sense, but what are some of the things that veer you off of that path that make the integrity sometimes disappear?
Ironically, the same things that we're aiming for: the money, the recognition, the fame, the reward. I have this phrase when my husband and I are talking about mental health and people's trauma and their experiences. I say that many times medicine is poison and poison is medicine. It just really just depends on how you use it, right? You can get medication off the counter, and if you misuse it in the wrong way, it'll do serious damage. You can get medication off the counter. If you use it the right way, it'll do a lot of good. And so integrity really comes from how you're going to use the reward, the recognition that you're aiming for. And if it's for selfish intent, and you miss the purpose, again, as we mentioned earlier, the purpose of the community pouring into the individual so the individual can pour into the community, so the community can pour into the individual, right? There's this cycle that is supposed to happen. And when there are selfish intentions behind the art that we create, then you have individuals that take, and next thing you know, there's nothing left, right? Or you have communities that take, there's nothing left, right? And so it's really trying to find the balance between that taking and giving. But honestly, everything that we're even aiming for can lead to that corruption. We just have to have the right intent and balance and the right accountability.
Another question?
Well, first off, congratulations on all of your achievements. Beautifully done. As a songwriter and as a storyteller, what fuels your inspiration? Like, where do you derive your stories and your songs from?
Thank you. Life, love, legacy, lessons. That's my theme. That's my responsibility to me as a songwriter. I feel like music is a responsibility. And what sets me apart, I founded my label, as you could say. I think I'm still struggling with the imposter syndrome when I say it, but I do have a company called Heavenly Entertainment. And I'm going through a business course right now, and they have, okay, what makes you different and all that kind of stuff. So he threw me up there the other day, and I had to answer those questions. I said, what makes me different is that I'm human. AI. Dun, dun, dun. Like the enemy. But there is a compromise in everything that we consume, music and food. There's a growing consciousness in the communities and trying to be aware that things are produced ethically. And then you turn around and have something that, like AI, that could be, again, medicine or poison, we don't know, depending on how it's used. But that is my organic inspiration is life and just being true to that. Someone told me the other day, they said, I really like your music because it's not oversaturated about love, which a lot of music can be, right? Break up, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, etc. And there's just a very wide range because that is what I consume, is life.
All right. On that end, we're going to quickly end. You'll grab the question on the end. I just want to point out, does anyone else notice the angel wings behind her? Is that serendipity? I mean, what a beautiful soul you have, and the fact that you're a label, right? All right, we'll let Nat ask the very last question, and then we're going to go outside for a group photo. Oh, do you want to get our photo in front of those wings? Get up there. Okay, all right.
Now everybody gets to watch you do it.
And honestly, I just have a comment. I actually want to tell you thank you for actually being transparent and very honest. I love the question that you asked, how did you handle when you had the panic attack? And you could have easily just answered. But the fact that you actually broke it down to we actually had a plan. I love when individuals are actually being honest and sharing how things actually happen, because they're talking and the individual could be like, wow, okay, so just do that. No, you actually need to do this. Yes, so just your vulnerability and your transparency with us, thank you so much for that.
Christine. Thank you, Christine. Okay, wonderful. Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, and please join us out front for a group photo before you take off. Thank you.